Welcome to Single Leg Parlays College Week 13 review. Last week was crazy. The bottom half of the SEC did not show up to the party, to the barbecue. They were not there. Indiana went from in to out to back into the playoff mix. It was a hell of a weekend, and we got a lot to talk about. But before we do anything, got Andy over there, got Al over there, got Matt right here. Let's drink.
Cheers.
Before we talk college football, I have just a quick question. Thanksgiving is right around the corner. Happy Thanksgiving. It's going to be a hell of a time it's a bad day to be a turkey, am I right?
Bad day to be a bourbon.
Bad day to be a bourbon indeed. But Andy, what is your drinking agenda on Thanksgiving? Do you have a plan, or do you just kind of like freewheel it?
So I've always freewheeled it my whole life. And then last year, for the first time, I took a tip from you, and I went with the white wine early, and it was glorious.
Right. Puts you in the pocket.
It was great.
Yeah.
It was great. So I'm definitely going to do that again.
You can't overdo the white wine. The good thing with the white wine early is your wife will probably engage with you, right? Because the white wine is just like a very cool.
Then you're not the one with the problem. You're the one that's fun.
Yeah, you're the fun one. Yeah. If you drink like Merlot or like a goblet of gin in the morning, everyone thinks you're a problem. A little classy white wine in the morning. A little classy white wine in the morning, everyone thinks you're fun and rich.
Yeah. I might even think ahead this year and freeze some grapes.
Ooh, I like that.
Ooh, make it look like a little more fun, a little sangria action.
Keep
the
it cold.
The better.
Yeah. I'm gonna make like a freezer door cocktail. I'm gonna make a bottle of Manhattan and bring that down, and it'll really just be an excuse for me to drink a fifth of Manhattan, but it'll be for everyone. And
how do you make your Manhattan? What's your go-to liquor in that situation?
Yeah, makers typically. It's I think the best quality, like ground floor price. Anything lower quality than makers, and I'm gonna regret it. And anything higher quality than makers, I'm gonna spend twice as much. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, just 2 parts bourbon and 1 part sweet vermouth, and then I'll put a little maraschino cherry juice in there, and hit it with a fuck ton of bitters. So that equates to, I don't know, 8-ish cocktails. And I do like 2 cups of bourbon, 1 cup sweet vermouth, and then that I'll throw in like 10 or 15 dashes of bitters, and that's it.
Hey,
pour it over ice.
Good. So I'm a bourbon guy by heart, by trade, but I don't necessarily drink the brown until like the sun's going down. Normally, right? Like if I'm hanging out with the boys, it's different. But I probably will get into the bourbon as the Dolphins game is getting close, right? That 8 o'clock window. But white wine in the morning, light beer during the day. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. Is the way I'm operating this day. So
what I really like usually is I'll get like a pint or a quart, whatever, the little jug of apple cider from the store. You do bourbon and apple cider. That's a fantastic little mixer up.
See, you may be onto something. I always drink my bourbon like neat or rocks or water, but maybe I need to just be more fun. I think it's like I need to do the white wine thing and kind of like mix it up.
I think also, I don't know what it is, if it's just the sugar content of like apple juice, apple cider, but like when I drink mixed drinks with apple juice or apple cider, I like do not get hungover. I don't know if it's like a hydration thing or what, but
Al's working for Big Apples over here. Macintosh.
Hey, listen, I'll tell you. Let me give you a recipe. It's Red Delicious, okay?
Gale Apple Al over here. All right. Oh, Andy, did you have something to contribute to booze?
No, I literally just wrote that down though. Apple cider and bourbon.
It's solid.
The important notes are being taken.
So I added white wine last year for Matt, and this year I'll add this from Al, and Next year we'll get Danny to add
FaceTime us with his pants down. Be like, Amy left me. I'm like, no, she just went to the bathroom, bud.
Blackout by 2:30 p.m. before the food comes out.
Well, he said his mother-in-law doesn't serve dinner till 8 or 9 p.m. So yeah, if you're drinking at 11 a.m., busting out the Chardonnay, Andy's gonna be one-eyed by like 2.
Can't wait.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was 8 p.m. Damn, that is a late Thanksgiving. It sounds fun.
Yeah. The goal is usually like 2. That's the problem. We talked about this before you got on 2. The goal is usually to have dinner at like 2. But she's the worst at time management of anybody I've ever met in my entire life.
Thanksgiving feast is like a shit ton of stuff. Like even if like you time it well, it's like it is always later than you want. But yeah,
for sure. But we're talking like she tells us we're gonna eat at 2, so she doesn't buy anything for lunch. And then at 2, we're like, "How close are we?" And she's like, like 6 or 7 hours." So.
Yeah, it's a hard day to go pick up some lunch on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, go order some pizza on Thanksgiving Day. I don't know. Don't know about that.
This year we're taking things in our own hands. We're gonna bring like appetizers and snacks to make around lunchtime. And
That's a smart man.
Dinner will be served punctually at 2 this year. You're gonna be stuffed.
No one's gonna eat dinner because everyone's gonna be like stuffed on White Castle sliders or something.
You just ate 400 pigs in a blanket instead of a turkey and mashed potatoes that's been slaved over.
Perfect.
So we did not do a lot of bets last week. Honestly, I was working and shit got in the way. Same thing with Sunshine. Danny did lay out a couple bets. They did not come home, but Al and Andy held up their end of the bargain by giving you bets that were okay. Andy went 15-15, which put you right at 50%. Al went 3-4, put you at about 43%. The boys overall, not the hottest week. We could have had 18-21, but I'm back and I'm betting all of them. I may go crazy here and bet the whole damn board. I'm betting all the rivalry games. I'm pretty certain of it. So
yeah, I just want to jump in and say my solemn promise to you, the listener, is that I will never make you money, and if you fade me, you still will not make money. I'm riding right in that mid-vig range. You cannot be profitable tailing me in college football or fading.
That's a hell of a threat. I love that salesmanship. You follow me, you won't make money. You don't follow me, you won't make money. Enjoy.
It is a lose-lose proposition.
But we got a lot of good bets and a lot of good fun things to talk about. But let's kind of recap. Actually, Al, you had a fun game you wanted to start this off with all the nonsense that happened last week with the SEC just losing a bunch of teams that were competitors, maybe out of the playoffs, maybe they're still back alive. I don't know. But Al, walk us through your hypotheticals.
Yeah, so there's a number of teams that are pretty much locks for the playoffs, right? That's like the whole top half of the bracket. But when you get to the second half of it, it's a little more interesting, right? There's a lot of teams that just lost that were in that. Where do they fall in, right? So like, does Bama with 3 losses get in? I think most people say no, right? So I guess let's start there. Anyone think that a 3-loss Bama or Ole Miss makes the playoffs?
I think one of those two, if they stay with 3 losses, will get in. I think it should be Ole Miss because they have the better wins. Alabama hasn't really beaten anyone that was formidable. This is the bullshit about the SEC, too, because everyone's going to be like, well, Vanderbilt's not bad this year. Teams have been beating Duke, and no one says the same thing. Duke's 8-3. 8-3. But no one talks about, like, hey, you beat Duke. That's a pretty – or you lost – like, that Duke win is going to end up holding up, right? Because they'll start saying, well, Florida's now 6-5, all this bullshit. Yeah. Pro-SEC bias. But I do think Ole Miss will get in. Or Alabama, one of those two.
I don't think either one of them should get in. I am a little scared. No, I know you didn't. I am a little scared because the college football playoff committee or whatever had Alabama still at, 7 last week before, and their ratings won't come out till tomorrow, right? So, but I feel like that's them mentally preparing us that, like, hey, we're going to shove however we have to fucking do it. So I don't think either of them deserves to get in with 3 losses. But
yeah, for me, I'm writing them both.
Like they're telling us they're going.
But maybe that's a good way to like pivot here. So like there are conference championship games to be had, right? Like one being Oregon versus probably Ohio State.
Yeah, I think that was
another being Texas versus probably Georgia. So are we confident in saying the losers of those games are out?
No, I think Georgia's in.
Yeah, I feel the same way. So I think that win or lose, those teams are in. And so that drastically reduces the chances of someone who will be outside of it tomorrow getting back in. And here's the thing that I think the committee is going to be kicking themselves over is this whole like fifth conference champion gets in is totally fucking the whole bracket up. They're going to have to put Arizona State in when they could have Alabama, and that's going to cost them a bunch of money, and they're going to be so pissed about it.
No, I disagree. Well, yes, I agree that they will be mad, but Arizona State would probably be in regardless. Someone's getting in the Big 12 is probably getting in.
I mean, if they didn't have to put that conference champion in, they would not be getting in.
Yeah, you're right, because Boise State could be the fourth conference champion. But they need a 5, so there needs to be a Big 12 competitor, most likely in. My question for you is this. Let's say Miami and SMU both go 11-1 and enter the ACC championship game. Both would likely be into the playoff if there was no ACC championship game. Does the loser of that game, and say it's a close game, does the loser get in?
I want to think so, but I really don't. I think this is where it kind of benefits to be close. And Tennessee along the same lines, or Penn State also. I mean, they're further up, but the fact that Tennessee and Clemson don't have to play that conference championship game, they can move in over the team that loses the conference championship game. So, I mean, that doesn't do a lot for Tennessee aside from like seed jockeying, but for Clemson, that gets them from the outside to in. I'd like to see SMU and Miami both get in, and Clemson can go take a hike, but I think the loser of that game, I think also it probably depends on who loses that game too.
I think if SMU loses that game, they're in legit trouble of missing the playoff. I think Miami will probably get in regardless. Because
that's what I mean. That's why I think it depends on who it is that loses.
Especially if Campbell
they got to win this week first.
Yes. This is a tricky one too. And Miami on the road has been, I don't know. I don't even know how to quantify that team. It's a puzzle.
I mean, the whole season, I thought they were going to lose every game, and then they win by like 5 touchdowns. And I'm like, I don't know how I was sweating this and also not sweating it. But
I believe I was texting you about that on Saturday.
Yeah.
They keep having these like...
Andy was full Breaking Bad meme. They can't keep getting away with this.
Because I had Duke in the points when you guys played Duke, and it was like at halftime I had the 40-point cushion, and you fucking came back in. And then you did it again to me. It was awful.
Yeah, probably should stop fading Miami. What we need to do is Miami first half. Let's evolve. Miami first half. Take the team against Miami in the first half.
Fading Miami first half.
Fade Miami. Take the points against Miami in the first half. I think that's got to be the evolution, right? Because they always get in these pissing contests, and then they find a way through.
Yeah.
One more question. I know you and I had a nice, hearty debate about this a second ago. You don't think Tulane has a chance to get in the playoffs, Al? You don't?
I don't. I think even if they're deserving of a spot, there's a 0% chance the committee puts them in over any number of potential 2-loss teams or, even 3-loss teams like Bama.
How about if Tulane wins their conference and Boise State has a hiccup along the way?
I still think a 2-loss Boise gets in over a 2-loss Tulane.
So Tulane would have to do the following. They have to play Memphis this weekend, which is a good game. That is like on the college football schedule that's coming out this week. That's a fucking good game. Then they would have to play Army, who is a good team. Like, take Notre Dame aside, that's a good team. Those are 2 quality wins. Boise State, I don't know if they have a quality win. And they did beat UNLV, who's good. And I think they'll have to play UNLV again, maybe them or Colorado State in the championship game. Tulane's schedule is shaping up really nice.
I'll give you one scenario that Tulane needs in order to make the playoffs. I'll give you this one, okay? It involves Arizona State and BYU losing probably out, right? It involves whoever wins the Big 12 being worse than Tulane.
Buddy, they can be the Group of 5 winner. I don't know if they'll get as an at-large. I'm saying they could jump Boise State.
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying they'd have to. They're not going to jump Boise State. They'd have to jump the Big 12 because those teams are further down.
They don't need to jump the Big 12. There are 5 championship bids. Right, there are 4 divisions that are the Power 4, and then there is a Group of 5 champion. They do not have to beat the Big 12 champion. They just need to be better than Boise State at the end of the year.
It doesn't, right? But what I'm saying is, it doesn't have to be Boise State. It can be any of the. It's the 5 highest ranked conference champions.
Correct.
Yeah.
So the Big 12 is irrelevant. Right, Andy, are you understanding what I'm saying? The Big 12 is an irrelevant element to this, unless you think that.
Well, the Big 12,
they're going to get in. So the Big 12 champion's going to likely get in. I'm assuming that. I'm saying as that 5th conference champion, it'd probably be between Boise and Army and Tulane or something like that.
Well, so okay, I guess Arizona State is in the Big 12, right?
Yes.
Yes, they are the 5th conference champion currently.
No, 4th. I'm saying that the Power 4,
Big 10, SEC, ACC, Mountain West.
No,
those are the top. Those are the 4 highest ranked conference champs.
Yeah,
the 5th one would then be Tulane.
My
or would
point
be
is,
Big
I don't
12.
think Boise. My point is, it's Boise State or Tulane. Right? Is the point? I think the Big 12 champion will get in regardless. They'll make that happen, considering the money in that league.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think there's only one game left for Boise State, right? Or I guess they play a conference championship.
They'll play UNLV or Colorado State, and they have to go to Oregon State this week.
So you need Boise State to lose out. That's one scenario. The other being that Arizona State and BYU lose this week.
I don't even think
doesn't matter who wins the Big 12.
I don't think you need Boise State to lose out. I think Boise State can lose one game, and if Tulane beats Army and Memphis, that's about as good as anything on Boise State.
I don't see how Tulane with the same record jumps Boise State with the Heisman potential might be the Heisman front runner, and like a team that actually has a quality loss, having hung with Oregon in the first game of the season.
Yeah, that shit is ancient history.
But I think that matters.
I think it does too. I also don't think this Notre Dame team.
That's why I think Arizona State and BYU, those aren't as impressive. And if those teams lose and you're sitting at 3 losses and you've got a 2-loss Tulane conference champion, that's more likely to jump Arizona State or BYU.
Maybe it is at that point. I can see college football wanting to get bigger names. They know they have to have someone in here, and I could see this.
I guess the difference we're having is that you think Arizona State and BYU are big names, and I think
they're bigger than Boise State. I really do. I think their fan base and the money that's in there and the conference alignment makes them bigger.
Okay.
Ashton Genty.
Cool. It makes sense.
I love Ashton Genty.
Yeah.
I'm saying that the eyes and the alumni base and Boise State's an interesting case because they were fun for 5 years in the middle 2000s, but how have they been relevant the past 5 to 10 years where everyone's like, whoa, Boise State, they're not playing Virginia Tech, they're not running the Statue of Liberty. That shit was 15 years ago.
I would argue they've been relevant for the entirety of that time, except maybe a 5-year stretch instead of only a 5-year stretch.
I don't think anyone really gives a fuck about Boise State. And I don't know if they give a fuck about Arizona State, but they're in a much more competitive league where people see them much more often.
Andy, do you have any take there? Which one of us is crazy? How does Tulane get in your eyes? Maybe let's put it that way.
That seems simple. I don't understand how that's a struggle. Boise State, I think they're going to lose a game. And I don't think Tulane loses a game.
Yeah, if Boise State is not their conference champ, then Tulane is their conference champ. They'll be higher ranked. And that's how they get in, right? Yeah.
It doesn't seem very challenging. Even if they both win, I think there's a chance. I think Oregon State is bad this week. They're going to play. They're going to play a bad Oregon State team. That Oregon State team put the spurs to Washington State. And I think Washington State is on par with Boise State. So I wouldn't go necessarily writing that off as a W.
Oregon State also needs this win to get bowl eligible. They're sitting at 5 wins right now. So it's a very meaningful game for them.
A 4-loss Big 12 conference champion would be able to get in over a 5th conference champion. That's not
4 losses is a lot of losses. I think at that point, probably not, but like Arizona State's good. Have you watched Arizona State this year? They're a fucking good team. Cam Scadaboo is great. Their running back is fucking fun. I understand Ashton Genty is a sexier name. I have been the biggest proponent of Ashton Genty. I've been talking about him from week 1. I loved him. But I do think Arizona State means a lot more to the college football landscape, and there's a lot more money in Arizona State than there is in Boise State. And if we're playing the money game and eyes, it's a fucking giant state where their university will be on there. It's 15, 20 million people. Or 11 million people in Arizona. They'll be watching.
They should, I guess, if we're adding a bunch of like rules to like what 12 teams make the playoffs, they should have another one that says no 3-loss teams are allowed. That's my hot take to put a pin in this one.
And we can cut
there's plenty of undefeated 1-loss and 2-loss teams that you don't need to be dredging for 3-loss teams.
So I had a similar idea about baseball a while back, because there were teams like winning their division but were under 500, and like you need to make a rule that you have to be above 500 to make the playoffs, and if the division winner is not, like just add another wild card, and if there aren't enough wild card teams above 500, then somebody just gets an extra bye, because it's ridiculous to make the playoffs when you're under 500. It's insane.
All you gotta do is be a Big 12 champ.
Well, Al, you said a 4-loss Big 12 champ.
That's not feasible.
I think it's impossible for the Big 12 champ to have 4 losses.
Well, so
I don't think that is true.
Yeah.
Have you guys seen the scenario? There are 9 teams that could make the championship game in the Big 12. 9 of them.
So
that shit is super fun.
Yeah, if that's the case, then for sure there's a chance a 4-loss team gets in.
There is a chance. The chance is extremely rare that West Virginia makes the Big 12 championship game. I want you to know that. But there is a technical chance that they can make the Big 12 championship game. It's going to come down to Arizona State holds the cards here. Iowa State would be second, then BYU, then Colorado. Those 4 are very –
they're all 6 and 2
there's a high likelihood that though 2 of those 4 they're playing the weaker side too. Like I think Arizona State plays Houston. No, they play Arizona. Someone's playing Houston. Yeah, that Arizona team's bad.
I'm gonna paint a picture for you, Matt, that maybe is the best way to sort of sum up my argument here. So, having the Big 12 champ, like a mid Big 12 champ, make the playoffs is akin to an 8-9 matchup in the NCAA basketball tournament, right? It's a couple of teams that you're like, I don't really care who wins this one because they're losing the next round. Getting Tulane in is more like a Sweet 16, like a 5-12 matchup where you're like, if that's the right seeding, I forget. But it's like where you're like, oh, we could be in for like an upset special here. It's a little more intriguing to the viewer.
I agree.
How's that?
I get it. I like Ashton Genty. I do think at the end of the day, I think Boise State will play more competitively against the team they're faced up in the bracket. I can see a scenario, and I don't think it's uncommon, where Tulane has a better strength of schedule, them coming off of 2 good wins against Army, who everyone's been talking about, and Memphis, who's really good in that league. I think those are pretty formidable wins going into the playoffs when you need them. And I don't think Boise is perfect. That game against Wyoming this weekend was bad. They were fucking terrible that game. And they got through barely. I think UNLV is not they're not a sleeping giant, but they're not to be fucked with. And Oregon State's competitive. They need that win. So,
do you guys think the expanded playoff has sort of ruined big upset weekends like we just had, where like it's harder to grasp like what the impact is immediately?
No, I think
Alabama just lost, but are they in still or are they out? You know, as opposed to being like, oh, they're immediately out. Like we still don't really know.
I think the conversation is what makes it fun, right? Like,
yeah,
I am in for the fact that we're having this debate is fun. My team is dog shit, so I need something to have fun with when I'm watching this. And last weekend, I think it ratcheted up the pressure because we have one loss. One loss is okay. Can't get to 2 losses, and we definitely can't get to 3. But can we? Who knows? And after this year, there'll be like a blueprint, unless you're Florida State and your quarterback gets hurt, and that blueprint gets thrown out the window like it did last year. Who knows?
That was August for you, right? Where you're debating whether or not you can get to 3 losses.
Yeah. No, we were already at 3 losses in August.
Well, so I think it's always exciting when a team gets upset, right? But like I think it used to mean a lot more, or it used to be a lot clearer what it meant, and I think it's still yet to be determined what it means when a team loses its 3rd game, a marquee team loses its 3rd game, or like a middle of the road team loses its 2nd game this late in the season. So I think there's a little bit that we're giving up there, but I think we kind of make up for it with the conference championship games because there's more of them and they're more impactful. It's not just the same 4 conference champs are getting in and that's all that matters. You've got smaller conference championship games that will make a difference. And depending on who wins and by how much, they could be playing to get into the playoff.
Yeah. I also think it kind of sucks that it's better to be 3rd than 2nd in a lot of these scenarios, right?
Yeah.
I hate that. Penn State has no risk as long as they handle their business. Like,
yeah,
that Penn State team, we talk about this, how much I hate transitive property football because it doesn't allow a team to get better or worse, right? Like, Florida State was better at the beginning of the year than they are now. They're bad now, right? Notre Dame lost to Northern Illinois, looked bad. That team's gotten really fucking good. Like, that is not a team to be like slept on. That isn't the same team. So
Florida's another one.
Florida is a perfect example of a team that is like, hey, let's make a quarterback change. You think Miami goes in there and wins by 31 this time? I highly doubt they go.
I don't know if they win.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, and I think Miami played their best football at the beginning of the year, and they're still good, but they're kind of wheezing out, right? And I hate the fact that, like, it kind of perpetuates the transitive property, and like Penn State's like, oh well, we're going to be in regardless. It's like, dude, you guys aren't very good right now, in my opinion. That Minnesota game, they needed every minute to win. That was a bad football team. And Minnesota, I know they're kind of scrappy, and they kind of drag you into the mud, but they didn't look like a top 12 team the other day.
I think also before the season started, everyone was talking about how the 5 seed is the sweet spot, and you get to play, whoever it is, you're going to get the easy team on the schedule, right? But I mean, it's possible that like Ohio State loses the Big 12 or the Big 10 championship game, and depending on how other games shake out, they end up the 12 seed or like the 11 seed. Like, you're like, oh, this is a spot where like, normally this is a team, we were expecting a cupcake, and you're going to get like railroaded by a team.
Write it down now. Notre Dame will be playing Indiana in the 5-12 to really create some sort of rivalry for in-state. Indiana will get that 12 seed, Notre Dame 5, and it will create beautiful storylines. And the television
that would be fun.
Do it. And then Boise State will be the 11 versus I don't know who.
Yeah, but neither team is coached by the Harbaugh brothers.
That's true.
Just talking about storylines that fresh new storylines.
It just sounds like a fun storyline, right? Yeah. Notre Dame, Indiana, in the state. Weather's not going to be a factor for either of them. Sounds fun. All right, we got off the rails there, but I'm glad we did it. Let's talk about some awards really quickly. Every week we like to give out awards to teams that impressed us, teams we thought sucked, and then a special award, and then tell us why we were wrong from the previous week. Who were the most impressive? Andy, start us off.
My most impressive is Florida. Excuse me. They're coming off back-to-back ranked wins. I think they're at 7 wins already. They're definitely 6 already.
6.
And they play Florida State.
The 7.
So 7, yeah.
Yeah, they actually are already at 7 wins.
Yeah.
They already have the one against Florida State. It's weird.
At the beginning of the season, we talked about how, like, if they can get to 5 or 6 wins with this schedule, like, that would be incredible. And then at the beginning of the season, we were talking about Billy Napier losing his job. And now, like, they went to Lagway, and they've been good. 2 ranked wins in a row. Yeah.
I think I said going into that Texas game that they had, 3 straight games against ranked teams, and I wouldn't be surprised if they beat one of those teams, and they beat 2.
Yeah. They've been playing much, much better. Lagway looks like the truth.
Turns out he's better than Graham Mertz.
As far as true freshmen, you never see them that polished when they start, right? Like there's an acclimation process.
Yeah.
They're really good. I hope the Seminoles kick the shit out of them. This is going to be my Super Bowl. This is it. I know I'm going to be disappointed, but I am investing all of my emotion into this, and I am betting the plus 15.5. Boy, I am here. And that's losing by 2 touchdowns. I'll be setting off fireworks in front of my house. But that Florida team is playing far better.
Yeah.
Al, your pick was going to be my award recipient, but you go for it.
I mean, speaking of teams that aren't the same team as when they started the season, or you could argue this has been the same Kansas team all season. They've just gotten the bounces to go their way lately. I think they were a 2-win team before they rattled off 3 straight against ranked teams: Iowa State, BYU, and Colorado, just burning down the Big 12. I love it.
Your mark has to hate this because your whole debate is perpetuated because Kansas is a bunch of assholes. They have no business even playing good anymore. They could have packed it in. They're trying to get to a bowl now from 2-6. And they looked every bit the better team against Colorado by like a wide margin. Lance Leipold, I think if you've ever listened to this podcast, we talk about how there's people who draw X's and O's in the sand and they're really good at it. And he's one of them. He's a mastermind. I love that they're killing it. Devin Neal the other day had a truly remarkable performance. They're running back for Kansas.
I just had an idea. They should have like an NIT offshoot playoff, an invitational. All these top teams go, and then you can take your 3-loss Ole Miss and your red hot Kansas Jayhawks at 6-5 or whatever, and do another one.
Al, they have that. It's called the Cheez-It Bowl.
No, it's not. That's a one-off bowl game that doesn't mean anything. Nobody is playing to get a Gatorade cooler full of fucking Cheez-Its dumped on them. Okay, or
because they'll play real hard in the
cooler
NIT.
full of mayo cum just dumped all over them. That's not why they're playing the game. You give me another playoff with some money on the line that's like less by a large portion, but still a significant chunk of change. I think that would be a fun thing to watch.
Yeah, I agree.
That's it.
All right, guys. My most impressive team was Oklahoma. I'm going to give you some stats, okay? And I really want you to think about the stats I'm giving you. If I told you that Oklahoma only had 65 yards passing, do you think they could beat Alabama?
I would need more information. That's like that math question where it's like this plus that plus that. What's it?
65 yards passing. Oklahoma put 65 yards passing up. Do they win or lose against Alabama?
The only team I would think they might have won against would be like a Penn State or an Iowa.
Or like Georgia Tech in the 2000s.
Or like, Adrian Peterson, Oklahoma, where they're rushing for like 400 yards.
Yeah. Okay. How about if I told you their running back only had 107 yards and they had 65 yards passing?
Okay, then I'd say it's a loss for sure.
And their quarterback, who's notoriously white and not known for having wheels, Jackson Arnold the other day ran for 24 carries. I double as many carries as he did pass attempts, mind you. So the 65 yards passing wasn't like he threw it 60 times. He threw it only 11 times. But he ran for 24 carries, 134 yards. His EPA per play was 0.11, not amazing, but he averaged 5.58 yards a carry. I don't know what kind of voodoo Brent Venables did the other day to make that happen, but goddamn, dude,
that's a modern day.
Some people like holy crap. And to be fair, Brent Venables is known for being a defensive wizard, and the way they played Jalen Milroe was spectacular. They took everything away from him that he loves. He went 11 for 25 passing, and how many rush attempts? 14 carries for 12 yards. It was a rough day at the office for a prolific running quarterback. So kudos, Oklahoma. Don't know how you did it. I have no damn clue. But whatever voodoo you just did, that shit was impressive. I don't know if you guys watched that game. I was watching it because it was like the ABC big game, and I could not believe what I was watching. I just saw fucking Jackson Arnold running over and over again, and the same play, the same damn play right up the middle. It was nothing fancy, just straight ahead with his white slow ass. It was a wild experience. We usually like to give away an award called the Kaiser Soze. It's the team you thought was the most suspect of the week. Al, go first.
Yeah, mine is just the bottom half of the playoff bracket, which we kind of already just had a whole like half-hour-long discussion on. But there's a lot of teams that I don't think the committee wants to keep in there currently in the top 12. So I think it's going to be a fun thing to see how they sort this out tomorrow, and then all the shit we just said.
Agreed. Andy?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Texas A&M as my most suspect team. If you rewind just a few weeks ago, it was like week 7 or 8 of the season. They had one loss, which came in week 1 to Notre Dame, who's ranked like 5, I think. They were sitting pretty. They were looking good. And then they got spanked by South Carolina a couple of weeks ago. And then they lost to Auburn on Saturday. And you can't do that, right? They were on the cusp of like the biggest season they've had in a really long time. And the last 3 weeks have been very suspicious.
I don't know what to make of Auburn. Every time I think I have an idea what Auburn is, they do some ridiculous things. Like they lost to Oklahoma. They lost to Missouri. Those teams are fun. They're losing to Arkansas. They lost to Cal. Like all these losses, I don't even know if they have a good win. They lost to Vanderbilt.
They're a team that plays down to their competition and up to their competition, I guess, when it matters. I guess.
Yes, they're a puzzle, man. They're a puzzle team.
Here's the question for you. This week, Auburn plays Alabama, and Auburn is sitting at 5 wins. The 6th win's real important, so they're going to be really motivated. And Alabama is not used to being in a position where they're on the outside looking in. Like,
I think tomorrow
is it possible they pack it up?
Tomorrow's going to dictate whether that game is like a really good one or just another.
Agreed. I think we got to see where Alabama is in the playoff ranking because I don't think
there's a feasible shot that they can get in. They might have some electricity.
Kalen DeBoer is, I don't think hot seat is the appropriate term when you're 8-3, but he is expecting some improvement in his job performance. Especially with what Saban left behind, right? You're replacing a legend. You never want to be the guy that replaces the guy. You want to be the next guy up after. So I think Alabama needs something to prove. And if they're in like that 12 or 13 spot, they know they can get back in. They're going to try everything. I think it can end up being a sneaky fun game because there's a lot on the line for everybody.
Does Alabama have a worthwhile backup quarterback? Because Jalen Milroe has put up great numbers this year, but like he's never really been a great passer. it's kind of been like a combination of what he can do throwing, mostly what he can do running, and it's like it doesn't seem like that is meshing well with the
I don't think they have a good one. I think it
doesn't really seem like that was meshing well with Saban last year either. But
yeah, well, they brought everyone out last year. They brought like a kid that was transferred in as a lacrosse player to play in that game against USF. That's not even a joke. That's actually what happened. They had like a third string quarterback who's better as a lacrosse player come in, play against USF, and they won a very low scoring game against USF. Ty Simpson, but I don't think they have an adequate backup. So to your point, yeah, they need to address that room pretty quickly. The team that was most suspect this week is Ole Miss. Lane, you got to win these games. These are games you have got to win. You invested more than anyone in the transfer portal because this was the right opportunity. Yeah, lost Quinshon Junkins to Ohio State. Okay, yeah, that's a big loss. Good running back, but you invested so much on defense, and your defense played all right. But you can't go 3 times in the red zone and come out with 0 points. You gifted Florida that game by some of your decision-making. A missed field goal is what it is, but your decision-making was crazy in that game. You knew Florida, playing in the swamp, they're always a tough team, but you've got to win that game. You have to win that game. It's like the Ole Miss experience. I feel like this has been my life knowing Ole Miss. Sometimes they're 6-6, sometimes they're 10-2. They're never in the conference championship game, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
That's the Ole Miss experience.
Remember when Kentucky was like 6-0 and ranked in the top 10, and I was like, this is not the Kentucky that we know. Like, they are 100% going to lose the next game. Then they went out and they lost the next game. That's like Ole Miss. Like, once Ole Miss hits the top 10, it's like it's only a matter of time. They're not going higher than 5.
Do you know, in the 4-team college playoff era, who was the first team to be ranked number 1 in the playoff rankings? This is a little bit of fun trivia. Talking about a team that doesn't belong.
Are we talking like
2013?
Okay.
2013 or 2014 season? One of those
Virginia Tech.
No. Andy, do you have a guess?
No, not really.
I just remember it because it's like the only time they've ever been ranked number 1.
Mississippi State with Dak.
Yeah, under Dan Mullen with Dak Prescott, they were ranked number 1, and then they quickly went away, and then it was Florida State and Oregon. I think were 1 and 2 for most of the season. That Jameis Winston season, but I remember Mississippi State, Dak Prescott, and Dan Mullen. Sorry, when you said that, things that don't belong. That was like okay, Mississippi State, sure, you can have this week. We know this should. It's you know what, Ole Miss is a lot like the Oklahoma State experience that I've had in my lifetime. You're always pretty competitive, but you don't matter like to a championship. Like good on you, Mike Gundy. You make a team fun every year.
Andy, I'm gonna need you to like go back and find me saying Mike Gundy is gonna lose his job this season, and then like when he gets fired, and we need to fuck crank that one out. That's an all-timer prediction of mine.
I think I laughed in your face, so I will pay penalty for the atrocity that you laughed.
It was all just hate-based.
Yeah. But Ole Miss got to win that game. It's the Ole Miss experience. They're always the bridesmaid, or always not the bridesmaid, but like the second in command of the bridal party. And
always the drunk best man.
Yeah, always the drunk friend who's trying to hit on all the bridesmaids. Never the best man.
Never the sober one.
Or the groom. All right, let's talk about how you guys were wrong, because I didn't even bet last week, so I was very right.
Turns out laying 2.5 with Colorado was not the right move.
Oh boy, dude, Kansas has had these stinky lines for weeks. Somebody knows something. Like that line stunk.
Yeah. Didn't I even text you about that? And I was like, "Are you going to take Kansas?"
Yeah,
that's like your rule, right? Home team as an unranked dog under 3 against a ranked team or something.
Yep, and then that was I could have done the same for Auburn. Auburn hit the criteria as well, and
that one would have been real sweaty.
Yeah, no, that was a fun game. That was a real stupid game.
Andy, how are you dumb?
I was wrong about I took the Bama Oklahoma over, And you're not going to hit a lot of overs when one team scores 3 points.
Nope.
So
you need a little more.
Man, Oklahoma tried. They did their part to get you that over. Surprisingly.
They got halfway there.
If I thought one team was going to fuck me over on that, I did not think it was going to be Bama. I thought it was going to be Oklahoma.
Yeah.
So.
The good news was the spread was only wrong by 33 points. So it was close. Vegas is close on that one. I told you that game doesn't make any sense. The whole math of that game is like real fucked up. It was a Brett Venables masterpiece of ruining entertainment or enjoyment. Let's give out a special award. I'm going to give mine out because there are some teams that are like herpes, right? You always think they're going to go away, and they do go away for a little bit, but they always pop back up. And that's Mizzou. Mizzou's 8-3. That team's been roughly bad most of the year, right? They have Luther Burden, still really fucking good. He's going to be a great NFL pro. Whatever team gets him at the end of the first round, it's going to love Luther Burden. Super dynamic playmaker. But I think they have a chance to be like I think they have an outside chance of making the SEC championship game. I was reading something today. It's like the West Virginia style chance. And it's shocking that could be a possibility at this point because that team is super not good. Super not good.
Yeah, what they need both Georgia and Tennessee to lose, and then
I don't think actually looking at this, I think what I heard was wrong because Georgia's playing Georgia Tech. They're done. And you can't jump Georgia. And I think Texas A&M, in a worst-case scenario, would be in front of them.
But that would be fun.
Either way. Still Missouri. Missouri, I can't believe you're still, like, competitive and around. I kind of thought Mississippi State was the bet last week against you. And, hey, look at you guys. Congratulations. You're herpes. You never go away. A big Missouri fan last year. Big Arizona fan. All you guys are betraying me. So, herpes. That's what Mizzou is to me. Andy, what was your special award?
So my award is the Planning Ahead Award. And this is going to be a little bit complicated, so just try and hang with me. These are teams that going into this past week had 5 wins, right? You need a 6-1 to get bowl eligible. They had 2 games left to go. But the game they're playing this weekend, coming up, they are a dog of more than 10 points. So they're not getting the win this weekend. It's just not going to happen. So they needed to win last weekend, and they did. And those are going to be Michigan, Cal, and Washington. All 3 of them are double-digit dogs.
Now or never, huh?
Yeah, exactly. They had to do it last week because it's not happening this week.
Cal has had the weirdest season. Like,
really
I
they're
don't know.
eligible.
They lose to Florida State. They should have beat Miami. They lose some fucking atrocious games. I don't know what to make of Cal, but good for them. They're bowl eligible. That's sweet. Al, what's your award?
Yeah, I don't have a fun name for it, but I'm giving an award to UMass for hanging with the Georgia Bulldogs for 2.5 quarters and allowing me to entertain the idea of a Massachusetts Minutemen upset of a top SEC team. It was very fun. I saw they had the lead with the ball in the middle of the second quarter. But I mean, Georgia still almost covered. But
you're saying they had the lead for a minute, man?
Yeah, they had the lead for a minute, man. That would have been a good award name if I'd have thought about it for just a minute longer, man.
So that's our awards. That Georgia game was weird. The scoreboard, I thought it was broken at some point. I'm like, are they not updating the app? Andy, I know you want to talk about some teams with 5 wins.
So I definitely don't want to talk about all of these. I listed them all out in the spreadsheet, so you guys can take a look. But for our listeners, I've mentioned it a bunch of times already. Teams trying to get that 6th win have an extra level of motivation, especially if the team they're playing against doesn't have anything to play for. So keep an eye on those teams. Some really interesting ones are Virginia Tech. They both have 5 wins, and they're playing each other. So one of them's going bowling. Same thing with Eastern Michigan, Western Michigan. Both have 5 wins playing each other.
Smells like some overs, maybe.
Maybe.
It does.
Some other games were... Oh, good.
One of my favorites on your list is New Mexico at Hawaii. New Mexico, what was their team total? 1.5, I think, going into the year. I think it was over 1.5 or over 2.5. And boy, they're Broncos got his boys humming. They are looking at 6 wins. Kudos to New Mexico. I love that one. That one's great.
I think it would be fun to track all of these and see how you'd shake out, because I bet you'd come out over 500. And I think there's probably some obvious ones you could probably scratch off here.
Would you just do it money line?
Ooh, money line.
Are
these teams going to be dogs?
Some of them are going to be dogs.
Yeah.
Louisiana, Monroe
Oregon State at 10-1 Boise State, and like Louisiana Monroe against 9-2 Louisiana, and maybe even Auburn at 8-3 Bama. Like, probably wouldn't bet those.
No, not those money line.
But excluding those, these are all pretty decent. Pick a side, pick the dog in those 2 games you highlighted.
I could see Cincinnati winning. I mean, can you not see Kansas winning? I don't even know what the spread is, but I'm assuming Kansas is the favorite in that game. And Baylor's been playing very well this year.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what to make of it. I do know what to say this. Thank you guys for listening. Y'all are the best. You are the MVP, listener. You're the MVP of the season. Go to singlelegparlay.com. If you want all of our picks, we give you all these information. We will be better about updating our picks. Thank goodness some of the boys have been home down the fort while the holidays have been getting crazy. Hit that subscribe button. Love that. We'll send you money right to your inbox. And unless you're following Al, then he'll guaranteed lose you money regardless if you paid him. And then we'll talk to you. Listen to the rest of the podcast. We got a lot of NFL stuff coming. Cheers.
Cheers.
Love you.
Thanks for listening to the newly rebranded Single Leg Parlay podcast. Visit our website at www.singlelegparlay.com, where you can read more of our thoughts, as well as subscribing to our newsletter to have our picks delivered straight to your inbox each week. And don't forget to follow Single Leg Parlay on all of your favorite social media platforms. Cheers!